It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy, Rene, and Alex are here. And, of course, we're all agog about the new Apple rumors and the rumored Apple event on the 25th. We'll try to figure out, read the tea leaves, and see what's true and what's not true. Also, a reminder, we're getting close to the end of our yearly survey period. We'd love to know a little more about our audience. Not you specifically. We're not collecting information about you, but we do want to know a little bit more about our audience. So if you don't mind, it's completely voluntary. Take the Twit survey. It'll just take a few minutes at twit.to/survey19. And thanks.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 649, recorded Tuesday, February 19th, 2019. Why do you hate Jacob? MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by FreshBooks, the all-in-one cloud accounting solution, helping small business owners thrive. Try it free for 30 days at freshbooks.com/MacBreak. And by ZipRecruiter. Hiring can be challenging. There's one place you can go where hiring is simple, fast, and smart. A place where growing businesses connect to qualified candidates. That place, ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. And by Calm, the #1 app to help you meditate, sleep, and relax. Start 2019 off right with Calm. For a limited time, get 25% off a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover all the Apple news with the best Apple guys and gals out there. Rene, Ritchie from iMore.com and the Vector Podcast. Hello, Rene.
Hello, Leo. It's so great to be back with you here today.
Always a pleasure. Andy Ihnatko from WGBH Public Radio in Boston. Hi, Andy.
Ready to play the feud.
Let's play our game. And now, representing the Pixel Core family, Alex Lindsay.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Alex. Great to have you.
Good to be here.
March 25th, says John Pechkowski.
Yep.
BuzzFeed's John was, of course, with Recode for a long time, but he's now at BuzzFeed. How credible is this? He's the only one who has it.
He's got a good track record. I think someone else, I think Gurman has confirmed it now as well. He's got a good track record. The only thing that stood out at me is that usually they don't do it on a Monday because they want people to set up and travel on the Monday, and then they do it on the Tuesday. So Monday might be a concession to how they're scheduling all those celebrities that are supposed to be in it.
Well, yeah, because, and this is also, I thought, interesting. While we have rumors, and we'll talk about those later, of new Apple iPads and even MacBooks, Pachkowski says it's a news event only. There won't be product
news and
video,
all the Hollywood streaming content too.
Yeah, I mean that's
interesting.
So let me see. Let me read the.
I did ask him, and he said, "I said iPad Mini. I didn't say no iPad. Parse that as you will." And maybe that's just you never know with these events.
Yeah. Okay. One of the issues is going to be that as of right now, according to the Wall Street Journal, Apple doesn't have a whole lot of companies signed up for its news product. Remember, Apple bought Texture, the magazine app we advertised, we loved, that was actually created by a number of publishers. But my understanding is that the acquisition of the company did not include the rights to the products, to the content.
Correct.
So they had to renegotiate that. And, of course, they're also going to the New York Times and the Washington Post. And according to the Wall Street Journal, who I figure probably knows something about this, I'm guessing, Apple's saying, look, here's how it's going to work. We're going to charge $10 a month. We're going to take half of it right off the top. The rest of it we're going to divide amongst you based on engagement, how much time spent reading.
Yeah, that's not going to fly.
That's Kafka had a really arrogant. Peter Kafka had a really good response because I saw a lot of people panic initially, and his response was that there was a lot of interest among there are publishers that have their own large subscription base, but there are also publishers who don't, and they see Apple News as a way to go beyond whatever thousands of people go to their paper every day to reach the potentially hundreds of millions of people who go to the news app every day. It's not the same as the App Store. It's more like a Netflix model or an Amazon model where you're providing the destination site that everyone is going, and then you're getting your piece of pie. And for sites like the New York Times, it make no sense because they make enough money on their own. Maybe they make enough money on their own. But for a lot of smaller publications who don't have anywhere nearly the access to the audience, they're not splitting the money for subscribers. They are paying for access to that pool. And Kafka says there's a lot of interest, especially when you get out of the few players who have made a successful bid at the subscription game into all the other ones, just for that to be a service for them.
I'd argue that
that's not how, but that's not how this business works. When you're talking about the news business, you're talking about you're not talking about sites. You're talking about community institutions often, institutions like the Boston Globe and the Boston Herald, the Chicago Sun-Times, the Chicago Tribune, that there's very, very little interest in. There's not outside of the sports page, there isn't as much interest in people from Washington State or people in London in getting local Chicago news. However, that's a very, very big deal in Chicago, and they have much, much better ways of monetizing that content locally than 50%, and depends on how many people are reading your investigation into state procurement procedures. It's and the people who are the news outlets that are even smaller, they have even more opportunities to monetize themselves directly than to say, first of all, everything I do is 50% to embolden your own policies, and then maybe we'll get a kickback based on how many heads we get. Well, we can already get that kind of deal just by hiring our own team of one or two people, or even doing it by ourselves. I don't know how well this system is going to work if they're going to stick to that kind of policy. It might be more
legacy magazine. I think Texture was only magazine to begin with, which is not regional.
I agree that the for the Chicago Sun-Times or the New York Times or Wall Street Journal, this isn't going to make any sense. It's going to be really hard to get them to go down that path. A lot of them already have subscription models that are working. A lot of them are going down that path, but I think for a large number of magazines, the idea, they've already started buying into these ideas of trying to get into a larger pool. They may not like 50%, but I think for a lot of them, it'll pencil out. And the challenge for the New York Times and for Chicago Sun-Times is, if I'm paying $10 a month and I'm getting enough, maybe not the same articles, but enough of those articles, is it going to be enough for me to keep on subscribing to the Wall Street Journal or to the Chicago Sun-Times or whatever? So the problem, the issue that they're going to have, because I think that actually the Texture model or the Apple model will pencil out for about 85 to 90% of the publishers that are all in specific verticals, rather than the Chicago Sun-Times or whatever. The issue is for those larger publishers, if once I start paying that money and I'm getting enough of that news, for instance, when the New York Times started charging for articles in Washington Post, I didn't subscribe. I just went to CNN. I was just like, oh, I'll just get the news from CNN. I just stopped going to the other ones.
Paywalls are
but
they're making money at them.
And Netflix went through this anyway with their catalog content versus network content, right? Like Starz pulled their catalog because they weren't getting enough money, but Netflix is like, okay, we'll add all these other programs instead, and then people stayed in Netflix, and they had to start reevaluating what they were willing to put in Netflix to reach that audience.
We don't know what the financials are for Starz decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's also, we're not talking about things like, is Apple going to be so, quote, focused on privacy that they're not going to let a magazine or a news outlet to know, here are the people who are reading your articles. Here is, for you, data on how much engagement you're getting on piece by piece by piece. Here's how much attention your articles are getting the moment they're posted versus your archives that go back 4 or 5 years. If Apple is going to be as stingy about readership data as for news and magazines as they are with developers, that's just another thing. That's another reason why they have to do a really hard sell to attract these people. I think I've talked to, when we started getting those rumors last year, at least I know a lot of people who are in that business in New England, and they were we're just conversationally talking about what would you like to see, and they're saying, we need to have enough money that whatever pipeline we have to install and maintain is going to be worth it for our end, and also we have to know who's reading our stuff, because we need to get some sort of feedback. A lot of the money they're putting into their own websites isn't so much driving ads so much as understanding we need to put more money into our political coverage, or we need to put more money into our sports coverage, because that's what people are really, really interested in. That's what people absolutely come to our site in order to find. And so we're going to make sure that we take this person that we're hiring as a freelancer and promote them to full time, because we need more on the spot coverage of this topic. So I know that I'm only reacting to rumors, and we'll find out more about these deals as NDAs get broken or as people are free to talk. But if this is the big deal, if Apple, I'll say speculatively, just if Apple comes to these publishers, small and large, with the idea of we're presenting you with an incredible opportunity, you're really quite lucky to be on board with us here, to be able to get on this new service that, for all you know, only works on Apple logo luxury items instead of the Android and less expensive devices and the Kindle devices that we know that most of your city readers are actually reading the sports section on. Of course, you'll take whatever deal we give you, because my God, aren't you lucky?
Well, but I mean, if
no,
you look at
Apple needs them.
I think you're right about for newspapers. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense, and you're trying to figure all those things out. But when I look at the dwindling magazine rack at Safeway or at Walmart, those guys are not that sophisticated, and they're doing the best they can. They know a lot about skiing, or they know a lot about guns, or they know a lot about cooking, but they I don't know if they're that sophisticated where they're really, because they don't have that information now on their magazines.
There's
a reason why Premier magazine went out of business, because people are reading AV Club instead.
As someone who's thought about creating a magazine myself about AV, doing live video, I would definitely do it on this platform. Because now all I have to do is promote it, and there's a pay platform that's managing it, and if Apple wants to keep 50%, it wouldn't bother me at all. And I may do that in this process.
And then Apple strikes you because you decided to do a series on sexuality, on basically sex tips for kids who aren't getting sex education in schools, and they say no, you can't publish that.
Then publish it somewhere else. I mean, again, Pixar does pretty well on its own.
You just said that you wanted to use Apple as your publishing platform.
I would never publish.
If you don't get
the thing is, I would never publish anything outside of those areas. I don't publish anything I wouldn't want my kids to read, ever, on Facebook, on YouTube, on anything. I don't even swear on it.
There's so much.
So the thing is that it's
content that would get a strike based on or based on reasons that Apple is very, very conservative about. That now you have to deal. It's the reason why you have your own publication is so that if you decide you want to run this piece, that piece gets run. If you have to suddenly, when someone comes to you with a great idea of something that is part of the mission statement of your publication, your reaction is that I have to quickly reread our terms of service with Apple to make sure they'd be letting us publish this.
Pivot to video, Andy. Pivot to video.
This is speculation.
I just think you're talking about the edges of a large field. There's a big field out there that has plenty of content.
This is the field. There's a reason why Premier Magazine is no longer publishing. That's because people do not buy magazines in general, not because the content is not there. People can go. I go to the AV Club. I don't read People Magazine. I don't read Premiere. I don't read all these. I don't read Rolling Stone. The publications I do read, like the New Yorker, and they are the one, and Wired. They're the ones who actually create really great content online that I will come directly to their sites. I'm not saying that a news app that can collect all this stuff and find a way to monetize it for all parties concerned is a bad idea. I'm just saying that Apple has to come up with an idea that is compatible with at least what I believe to be the priorities of people who are in publishing, both the two people who are doing something online with a WordPress blog and the people who are now at the heads of a 70-year-old magazine that is doing a pretty good job of pivoting to digital.
For the ones that are doing a good job at pivoting to digital, that's fine. But I think that there's an awful lot of people who will just literally create new magazines for this platform because they see an opportunity to get. This is just the way cable worked. The way cable worked was, you get subs, so you get paid 50 cents per subscriber, or you get paid 25 cents per subscriber. You get paid $1 a subscriber. For HBO, they got $8. I think they now get $12 or something per subscriber. It wasn't a percentage of the income from the cable network. It was just, and what happened was you got that per subscriber and then you made any other money on top of that with advertising or whatever you had. But people just built their little models, and they built their little cable networks based on the business model that they were given. And so the thing is, I think that Apple, by creating it, they created a big app store, and it created a lot of opportunity for a lot of people. And I think they're going to create this, and it's going to create a lot of opportunity for a lot of people. And the calculation that has to be made by the publishers is, will that group of people, the publishers that jump in, as well as independent publishers that come up and do this on their own, will they be able to continually outproduce that large group of people that, and as we start to get to a point where, like, I'm not going to pay for a bunch of subscriptions to a bunch of newspapers. If there's a couple newspapers that cover international that are in texture or whatever Apple calls it, I'd be fine. Like, it tells me what happened that week. Like it's not. And so the issue is Apple, they don't need all the newspapers. They need some of the newspapers to be in there. And so I think that's the challenge is, are they going to be able to outrun something that's much more generalized? And I'm not sure that they can. I just don't think
It was a Diller this week who said that Netflix has won. The entire model has been turned upside down because they have now so much power in the industry compared to where it used to live with the studios.
It's the mistake. The mistake that Hollywood made was pushing so hard on Netflix, and then Netflix was like, "This is not a model we can keep on going on, so we're going to go original." And now they've sucked up that oxygen. They are the ones that people are hoping to get into, because you're getting more eyeballs as a filmmaker on Netflix than you are doing your own release anymore. And I think that's going to be, and Hollywood has lost all of its leverage, both as FANG keeps on turning on, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Netflix, Amazon, Apple, as they all keep
about to launch. Yeah, Hollywood
has completely lost all of their and the artists, actually, the directors, the artists, the actors, they actually have a lot of leverage, because they're now the most important. But it's all the industries in between are gone. And I think that could happen to publishers as well.
Yeah. Do you think that Apple will make this a multi-platform product?
No, absolutely not. And I wouldn't care.
Yeah, definitely.
All the money is with Apple users.
They do with Apple Music, though. I mean, I'm caught halfway here, because Apple Music, they continued the Android app, and texture. They already canceled the Windows 10 app for texture, womp womp. But they've kept the Android app going, and while they retrofit texture into News for iOS and the Mac, they could retrofit News into texture for Android, because if they are going for audience and they're monetizing and selling based on audience size, then just like with Apple Music, and especially when they're selling family plans with multi-device, you want to support as many devices as possible. So I think this one is less clear cut than like iMessage or something.
I hope it's multi-platform. That would be another thing that would make it hard. Yeah,
they seem real happy with multi-platform when there's money behind it.
Again, soccer, football, internet football is, and I mean like soccer is. I'm always surprised by how much of these decisions about broadcasting and publishing is based on the making sure you have an availability to broadcast soccer. Because if you cannot, people are looking for soccer scores, they're looking for FIFA results, and if you can't get it on your device, they're not interested in it. So,
well, they're going to put iTunes on Samsung. I mean, that's a big indicator of their cross-platform plan. Leo, iTunes for Tizen. I still am not over this.
So, we'll see what happens. March 25th. Apple's obviously, if that's the actual deadline, they have 1 month to figure this out. They don't want to launch. I would bet they don't want to watch a news product that doesn't have the New York Times and the Washington Post in it. But honestly, 50% is
to launch.
Honestly, 50% is just what they're saying. I mean, they could obviously back down.
They did a whole event just with the Daily. Remember that? Assess this how far we
have come. Yeah. In fact, we were talking about this on Sunday on Twit with somebody who had worked for the Daily, and Sam Mashkovitz, and he understood what the risks were. What Kafka says, and I think this is actually makes a lot of sense. He quotes a publishing executive who says, "Percentage is meaningless. It's the absolute dollars paid out that matters. And if we make more money giving Apple 50% than we would make not giving Apple 50%, we're going to give Apple 50%. And I think that's really the calculus. Nobody's looking at a percentage. Those are the fighting words you throw out. What they're looking at is and so the calculus they have to make is, does Apple bring us enough viewers to make up for it?
Well,
what Kafka is saying is, that magazine publishers are going along with it, as you said, and Alex and Andy, but newspaper guys are less excited about it. But I'll tell you, the real risk, and I don't think Apple's thought this through, of incentivizing engagement is that a lot of publishers will be encouraged to publish link bait because they'll make more money on link bait. We already have that problem. Let's not make it worse, Apple. This is your opportunity not to do that.
Absolutely.
We'll see. Apple's not going to announce a product that isn't done. So March 25th is probably a soft date. That's the beauty of doing it at your own campus.
Will Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon be on stage, Leo? Because that's all we're really...
That's done,
Abrams
right?
there.
That's a done deal. And that's the thing.
They own that stuff.
I'm more interested in what the shape of this Apple product is. Is it a single subscription, as you said, a multi-platform subscription, so that you get music, you get services? Wouldn't it be great to have one price like an Amazon Prime?
Apple Prime, yeah.
Apple Prime, that you get everything, including
we'll
iCloud.
Need it, Leo. There's so many subscriptions now. I'm buried under subscriptions.
That's what people want.
Yeah.
And that may be part of the Apple's calculus with 50%, because they may be saying, well, we're going to allot this percentage of the overall. Maybe it is a $90 or $100 a year subscription. We're going to put $10 a month. Well, that doesn't make sense, does it? If it's $10 a month,
we'll give you more than 2 terabytes of iCloud storage. How about that?
Oh, and that somebody called me on the radio show this weekend and said, I've used up the 2 terabytes. Where can I get more?
There was someone on Reddit today with that too.
You're clouding it wrong.
It's all photographs. Yeah.
You should never have more than 2 terabytes in the cloud. That's crazy.
This was 2 terabytes of photos on Reddit that they were talking about.
If you're going to put it in the cloud, put it in Glacier.
Yeah.
I told them, get 2 Synologies, have one at work and one at home, and then you've got...
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy.
I had a real tense moment where I'd set up my new hard drive. This was a couple months ago. Did not notice that by default, when I reinstalled the OS, that iPhoto syncing had been turned on. And why am I suddenly have no space left? Oh, it's because it's synced 200 gigabytes of photos. And so I had that tense moment where it's like, I'm just going to turn off iCloud syncing and then delete my iPhoto library locally because I don't need it, because I don't use that for major storage. And thinking, now, please, iCloud, don't take this as a sign that I want you to delete all of my iCloud photos from everywhere. I just don't want to have 230 gigabytes of photos from every single iPad and iPhone I've tested since 2008. Please.
So many screenshots.
Yeah. Oh, God.
So let's take a break, and then when we come back, the prospects that Apple will release or introduce new hardware, maybe not at this event, but that's unclear.
In and around it?
In and around it. Mm-hmm. Maybe they'll have an auxiliary event in the lobby. They could. They haven't used...
a pop-up event.
They have a top-off. They haven't used that in the Steve Jobs Theater. You have this incredible upstairs space, right?
Yeah.
And they could do demos there. They haven't used that. So maybe there's a way to, do the news event in the downstairs. Everybody sees Jennifer Aniston and Oprah. And then they come upstairs and look, there's new iPads. And you get an iPad, and you get an iPad, and you, and you, and you. Our show today brought to you by FreshBooks. Now, if you're in business for yourself, you probably feel as I did at the end of the month when you have to sit down, fire up Word and Excel, and make invoices. It was never fun. Never fun. In fact, so unfun that I often put it off. Do you ever put off paying bills? Same thing, right? Put it off. I'll do this next month. But I did find out pretty quickly, if you don't send out your invoices, you don't get paid. So that wasn't a tenable situation. That's when Amber MacArthur told me about a brand new startup in Toronto at the time called FreshBooks. And here we are more than a decade later, and it's going strong. It's so great. It actually made me look forward to doing invoicing. First of all, it makes it super easy to make professional invoices. It did for me. It was, I had a currency conversion because it was in Canadian bucks, and I had all these expenses I had to get in. They made it so easy. I could easily import all my expense receipts using the FreshBooks app. I'd take a picture, put it in the invoice, and all of a sudden, boom, it's in there. Plus, there was a Pay Me Now button. When you do FreshBooks, you automatically can take online payments, which means your clients can pay you right through the invoice instantly. Turns out that's they don't like paying invoices anymore than you like sending them. That's such a boon to them. You get paid on average twice as fast. That's an actual stat from FreshBooks. Twice as fast. That's awesome. You can always see which invoices were sent, which were viewed, which were paid, and which haven't been paid yet. And you can automatically send out reminders. It's really fantastic. Plus, it turns out in the process of sending out these invoices and in getting in the expenses, you're actually generating real double entry accounting books. So without knowing how to do books, you're doing the industry standard accounting. You don't need to know it. It just does it, which means you can quickly generate and access real accounting reports like general ledger and balance sheets in the dashboard. You're a tax person, and if it's you will love this. I know it's too late for this year, but now's the time to sign up. 30 days free, freshbooks.com/MacBreak. It'll simplify your whole life. You get all sorts of additional features too. Because it's a web app, they're constantly adding new features like proposals that you can send out to your clients that they can sign with an e-signature. Yes, you get that capability as part of the plan too. You can automatically update expenses daily in bulk or just upload the picture of a receipt, your choice. It integrates with everything you use, Acuity, scheduling, PieSync, MailChimp, Everlance. I can go on and on and on. FreshBooks has a great mobile app that lets you keep track of what's going on at all times. And because they have this kind of great feedback loop with their listeners, they recently redesigned the FreshBooks time tracking experience so you can log time for the week much faster. Each product gets its own line. The Day subtab now displays detailed entries with client, project, and service in list form. No more confusion regarding each block of time. Their support team is available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time, and they're great too, by the way. Nice Torontonians. Torontonians? How do you say that, Rene? Torontonians. And a video hub is available 24/7.
Or Tirana, if you want to be like all.
They're from the Tirana, the big smokers. Avoid the tax time scramble next year. I definitely don't think they call them that. Update to FreshBooks for effortless invoicing and accounting. And as I said, 30 days free, freshbooks.com/MacBreak. If you would, though, put MacBreak Weekly in the How Did You Hear About Us section. And that way we'll get credit for it. Freshbooks.com/MacBreak. We thank him so much for the support.
I swear to God, when he said Torontonians, I thought you were talking about like either Dune or Game of Thrones or something.
No, that's Arrakis, the Fremen, and the
Fremen,
the Bene Gesserit, and the Shai Halub.
Why don't you call yourself Todos? That would be great.
You got all those Dune names down really good.
Oh, it's one of my favorite books, Leo. I listened to the Audible like
I was
going to
say you must have listened to the audio version.
Yeah,
because I read it and I never knew how to say Shahulub or Bene Gesserit or Sardaukar or any of that stuff.
So good. When you read the book, you don't know, and then you have it in your head, and then you'll see a movie or you hear the author talk about it and go, "What is that? Wait, that's how it's pronounced."
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that Kyle MacLachlan is the Bene Gesserit's Shahulub?
He's Muad'Dib.
He's Muad'Dib? That can't be.
Kuzat's Haderach.
Wow, you know all those. Did you read them all, though? I mean, really, I only read the first one.
They're not all great. The first one is really the masterpiece.
The first one is a masterpiece and should just stand by itself, right?
There are a few series like that. And you must, like, as a writer, I have, it must be a weird feeling to know that you've done, like, a singular masterpiece in your life, and then you try to do, like, more of them, and it's like, it's not quite. I've already done that one.
Apple has responded. Remember the Google Pixel ads taking on, weirdly, the iPhone 10? Not the 10S, the 10, right?
Yeah.
I don't get that. Well, Apple's new ad, I think, responds.
So cute. Best buds. Wait, who's that blurred out there in the background? Did you bokeh my child?
Just totally unintentional.
Why do you hate Jacob?
What? No, look, I can unbokeh, see? Bokeh, unbokeh. Wow.
What kind of person bokehs a child?
It is so good. It is.
What kind of person bokehs a child? Oh my gosh! What kind of person bokehs a child?
Don't you bokeh me, Ihnatko.
By the way, everybody tells me I say it wrong when I say bokeh. Yeah. They say no, it's bokeh.
It's bokeh.
Yeah.
It's now bokeh because Apple says it's bokeh.
Okay, resident lady of the house speaking.
It's like gift or gift. I don't know if it's gift or gift.
I always say bokeh, not because I think it's correct, but because if I say bouquet, people think of a bunch of flowers.
Yeah.
I've only ever heard
it's bouquet or bokeh?
Bokeh.
So Scott Bourne and others have said, no, it's bouquet.
See, I thought Scott said it was bokeh.
But But isn't that B apostrophe okay? Like that's like bokeh. I'll be there.
Bouquet.
Bokeh.
Will somebody in China? It's Japanese, right? Will somebody in Japan tell us? Is it bokeh? What do you say? I'm going to say bokeh now because Apple's.
Which dialect?
Phil Schiller said bokeh. I'm just saying.
The funny thing now is that it is now bokeh because no one knew what it was.
Right, it's bokeh now.
For everyone who didn't know what bokeh, and that's the whole point of this. Which, by the way, it's a brilliant.
It's Leica bokeh, Leica bokeh.
You're trying to sell. If you're trying to sell bokeh to people who are buying phones and why it's important, what you have to do first is educate them on what it is.
What the hell is
they
bokeh?
built an entire ad
that surprised me too. Yeah.
It was awesome. You bokeh'd my child. You bokeh'd my child.
It works on so many levels, like because it does have that virality of like using the bokeh thing. It's
brilliant. Who bokehs a child?
Let's not pivot away from the central question. Why do we hate Jacob? Because just from that background, there's just something you instinctively don't. He's like a little bit shifty.
Such a good ad. I guess
he'll put his thumb in like all the cakes at the cafeteria to make sure that no one else gets one.
I guess you look at it and say, "Wow, Apple's brave," right? Because that does feel like a brave thing to focus on or unfocus on, as the case may be.
Right.
But actually, it's actually kind of brilliant. I feel like the ad company said we got to show them this.
It's an ad you want to show other people, which is the best kind of ad. You want to go show it to all your friends.
Viral.
Yeah. And now you start looking at it like, oh, do I have it or do I have the ability to do that or not? It becomes the big question for people who own iPhones and for people who own older Androids. I mean, I think a lot of the new Android and all the new iPhones will do it.
So my question of the day is, what the hell's MingChi Kuo smoking? His new rumor is, well, to say the least, a little odd. But
which one, Leo? There were so many.
16-inch MacBook Pro?
Just imagine a 15-inch with almost no bezel.
That's what it is, right? It's the same size as the 15, but they've just eliminated the bezel. He also says that the new iPad will be bigger too because eliminating the bezel. It'll be
10.2 though, not 10.5 like the old iPad Pro, which is now 11. But instead, it'll be 10.2 because I have to remember all of these numbers.
We're going metric again.
He also said, yes, he has quite a few rumors. There will be
display though, Leo. Can we just focus a lot of attention?
6K monitor.
6K by 3K, which is 2.1, which is super interesting.
2.1 aspect ratio.
Yeah.
What is 2.1? Is there a reason to do
2 by 1 is like what? Well, all the new flagship phones are 2 by 1, and I don't know. Alex might know, like if that's better for cinematography or photo. I don't know.
No, I don't know.
But unless his numbers are wrong, because the 6K by 3K could mean something other than what we're interpreting it as.
Yeah, I mean it is a. I don't know if it's any better. I mean, people will say 235 versus 185 is usually the two arguments, right? 235 and 185 are usually the things that people worry about there. I do think that it's interesting that Apple would possibly do a display. I think there's a business opportunity for Apple to create glass-to-glass hardware encryption, and you would need to own a monitor. You need to do a monitor to do that. That means that if you want to stream something, let's say your corporation, the only people that have glass-to-glass encryption is the military, and so the ability to say only these things can send and only these things can receive, and there's a piece of hardware that makes sure that no one else can. The best you can do is shoot a video of it, would be extremely valuable to the entertainment industry and extremely valuable to corporations. And so Apple's being the only part that they don't control to do that would be the monitor. So it would be interesting to see them to go back.
Also micro LED, which would be interesting too, because it gives you like OLED style deep blacks without all the mitigations you have to do for OLED, especially at larger sizes.
Yep. Yeah, that's going to be monumentally expensive though.
I love.
But Andy, we want it.
But now, as soon as I said that, I realized. But the people who want micro LED will spend $15,000 for a display because they'll make $20,000 for
what would drive it though? Because like 6K is like we already had trouble driving 5K. Apple had to make a custom T-Con to drive a 5K display, and Intel has not seen fit to push out new display ports, new Thunderbolt 4. I don't even think it's a thing yet because there's no PCIe 4. So I'm super interested just in how they're going to implement all this. If it turns out to be true.
Would you need Thunderbolt 4? Or you couldn't do it on Thunderbolt 3?
I don't think it's 60 frames per second. Like, could you do 6K 60 frames per second on Thunderbolt 3?
I think you can. I think it's enough.
Yeah?
Yeah. It depends on whether it's compressed or not compressed.
Yeah. Super interesting.
Of course it'll be expensive and presumably paired with a new Mac Pro, which Kuo says will be modular.
Well, the Thunderbolt 3 is 40 gig. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so 12G, that's 12 gig, that's 4K 60. So it would be, I can't do it in my head, but it would be probably, they still have a lot of headroom on Thunderbolt 3 to be able to still do that video.
So, what do you think? $10,000 starting point
for the monitor?
No, for the Mac Pro Plus.
There was a real interesting, weird rumor on Telos of Tech, which is a show that Drew hosts, where he said that his source told him that it was literally modular. Like you'd buy a brain that had the CPU and the RAM, the memory in it. Then you could buy other modules, like an expanded story module, and stack it on top with a proprietary connector. And then you could buy another one, like a SCSI or a what's it called? The other storage protocol connector, and you could stick that on top, and it would be almost like a Lego structure to put the parts you wanted.
I think making it really easy to change and having it be, to me, the form factor for this is a 3U, a 3U computer, that you can take the ears off and then you can set it up and it looks pretty, but most importantly for professionals, you can put it into easily into a rack mount. I mean, that is like a huge piece of why we get, as a professional, why we get it, not as goofy, I want to put it on my computer. That's why everyone has those Mac Minis, is because you put two of them in one U. And so I think that having a 3U solution that is then super easy to open up and change and move around and add things to would be a really great setup. I think 3U is the minimum. You could go higher, but I think 3U, it's because of the way you set cards into it. You would limit it if you go any smaller than 3U.
So intriguing. I love this slide that MingChi Kuo prepared for his TF International Securities. It's got the pig for the Year of the Pig.
Year of the Pig. Yeah.
It's got some balloons. I guess this is his Chinese New Year's.
And Western people lost their mind. They're like, why is it so ugly? Why does it look like this? It's not like Apple aesthetic. It's not, this is how you look in a nice, noisy, loud Chinese cultural way. It's beautiful.
That notch is freaking me out, man.
It does have a notch, doesn't it?
2 notches.
Yeah. It's really a scroll holding a card, it looks like. Second half of 19, obviously the normal time, September timeframe, iPhone models. We'll just go through this one by one. And before we do, credible, right? MingChi Kuo has supply chain sources that usually mean he's pretty accurate. Has he had any big misses lately?
Yeah, I think he said a few things that ended up getting delayed or didn't. Because the further out you project, the more of these things are subject to change. But he has ways of getting people to share data from the supply chain and manufacturing for his clients that are proven highly successful.
Yeah. So 6.5, these are the 3 models of iPhones, 6.5 inches. These are the same size as existing. 5.8, those are the OLEDs, 6.1 LCD. That's exactly like what we have right now.
It's like iPhone 6, 6S, 7, and 8. They're all built off the same platform.
So somewhat the same platform, same notch area, he says. They're not going to do the hole punch Samsung will announce on Wednesday. No USB-C yet, according to MingChi Kuo. Will still be Lightning. That's probably really the only question mark at this point for the new iPhones. He says the upgrades will be, what's UWB?
Ultra wide. So that's the indoor navigation system that I don't think has been standardized yet, but basically it's a positioning system for interiors, the way that we have GPS and GLONASS and everything for exteriors.
Frosted glass casing.
That's because the design will be the same. So you got to give them a new color or a new look, Leo.
Okay, so
you got to do it.
That's on the back, right? That's just, bilateral wireless charging. What that means, you can charge a phone from a phone.
Yeah, although that doesn't work. I've tried the Android ones and you get 1% and then it shuts off after 15 minutes. But if you put your AirPods on it, those are so tiny and they don't need that much charge that it's probably a very effective way of topping up your AirPods if you want.
Face ID, we already have that. What does he mean, Face ID? That's
better flood illuminator, so it'll work better in brighter light.
A better Face ID, okay.
Yeah.
Better battery and 3, not 2, but 3 cameras. Everybody's going multicam.
Yeah, telephoto, wide angle, ultra wide angle, which I'm super happy about because you can do a lot of things with that third camera, but ultra wide is what I really want to see.
And for MingChi Kuo's customers, this actually is key suppliers.
Yes.
That's who's going to be making it. And
that's who's paying for all this.
And that's what gives him credibility, is he knows these are the people who are his sources probably, right? The iPad, they will do an existing panel size of 9.7 upgraded to 10.2 because of the small bezels. So this will be an iPad standard, right? The new iPad mini comes with an upgraded AP access point.
That's a silicon. So, no, it's silicon. So it's going to be the same form factor, new silicon.
New silicon. Okay.
So they were not going to get rid of the button?
Apparently not.
Not for the mini. No, I don't think they've upgraded those to the new design language yet.
The 16 to 16.5-inch MacBook Pro, you explained that one, Rene. I'm glad you did that. That's just bezel-less, 15-inch bezel-less. The Mac.
Hey, look at the gram, right? Like, is it the HP who makes the gram? Like, those computers are getting real interesting.
Oh, yeah. There's some beautiful new, almost bezel-less displays
Big
out there.
computer, yeah.
A Mac Pro and a 31.5-inch 6x3 monitor. That'll be really amazing. Plus, the new 13-inch MacBook Pro will go all the way up to 32 gigs finally instead of the 16-inch standard 2 before. That's good. Although I like my 15. I just gave it to my son because he's going to do more video editing.
That's awesome.
That i9 is really. I always like that. Apple will extend ECG. Doesn't look like a new Apple Watch, but just new ceramic casing design. They don't do ceramic this year.
No.
So that's
going to come back.
That's nice. I like the ceramic because I like to spend money for no apparent reason.
I'm surprised I haven't done more with ceramic casing. There's so much they can do with style, with colors, patterns, textures. That when I saw the idea of having frosted glass, it's not a problem. But I've seen other products that try to use frosted glass, and when you get into a high contact sort of device, something you're putting in your pocket or fumbling with a lot, it's a lot of sections of that frosted glass turn into like polished glass, and it winds up looking like really, really crappy. It also picks up scratches pretty quickly. Whereas that's an easier problem to solve with ceramic than with glass.
Yeah, it's curious that they didn't make a ceramic this year. Although it got me off of my ceramic kick.
It could have just been a new design.
If they put out a new one every year, it's just me spending money for absolutely no purpose.
That's why I buy the cheapest one every single time. Is I know
that's
that
what I'm going to start doing. I think the Nike
is like not worth it.
They upgrade every year.
I think I'm going Nike from now on.
Yeah.
If they come up with a ceramic cased phone that has the same like little blue flowers of my mom's casserole dishes, I'm totally switching back to iPhone. I guarantee it.
The casserole phone.
I forget what those are called, but that's epic.
ECG support more countries, and probably the only other one that's kind of interest is that he says mass shipments of AirPower and the new AirPods will start in the first half, so by June.
And the new iPod with the upgraded silicon as well. But that's mostly because Apple will say, we have customers who really love it, so we want to make sure that they have a version that still is high performance and will be compatible for a few more years. And then
I think that's a good idea. You know who uses it? Kids.
I was going to say, I would love to get my kids an updated one.
Developers? Really? Why? Just to have an iPhone.
It's an easy way to it's an easy way to carry it with you and test out betas and to do a bunch of stuff with.
Yeah.
Are we thinking like the classic iPod Touch, which is basically a standard sized iPhone without a radios in it, or are we thinking about the smaller sized touch based iPod is it still on the price books? But
I don't think so. I think only.
Yeah.
I think it's just exactly the last iPod Touch with new silicon in it.
It's really something for parents to give their kids without a subscription to a phone.
Well, also there, if Apple would never do this, I'm not suggesting that they should. It would be silly for them to do this, but if they literally created an iPhone 8 or even an iPhone 10 I got the cameras, I was able to run iOS software. It's just it's just cheaper, and I don't have to pay a contract in order to use it. That'd be really interesting, just as like a $500, $400 pocket camera that has all these really good iOS editing tools on it, and the ability to connect via Wi-Fi to tether with my real phone. That would be really interesting. It would be silly. I know it's be silly. This is an Andy sort of product, anything else.
But that's exactly what I want for my kids.
Yeah. And even an iPod Touch, if it had the right features, that would get me really interested. Just as a dedicated media device that doesn't have to so I can keep everything that I want, all my movies and all my music to the playlist without having to tie up any data, any storage on my real phone. Again, at the right price. I'm surprised at how interested I would get between an iPod Touch and an new iPad Mini. This might be my finally. iOS might finally take back all the turf it lost to Android a few years ago for me.
This is the LG Gram, by the way, just to give you something to get your mouth watering. This is a 3-pound, 17-inch laptop, 2560 by 1600, almost bezel-less display.
With a numeric keypad, a laptop with a numeric keypad.
It has a numeric keypad. But look how thin it is.
It has its own gravity.
It looks like it really looks like a 17-inch MacBook Air, frankly.
Yep.
I mean, that's exactly what it looks like, right?
USB.
Except it has ports. Yeah. Type A ports.
Better.
That's kind of weird.
Type A personality.
I would rather have a card reader than a Type A port.
Same.
It has a micro SD, which is technically a card, I think.
Yeah. No camera I use has micro SD cards.
But you just drop a micro SD into an adapter and call it a day.
Yeah, I would much rather see an SD card adapter.
Yeah.
But
But you're right. I don't know why SD is suddenly a little bit of a pariah. I think that if you have enough, especially on a device of that size, why cheap out on a micro SD when if you give me a regular size high-speed SD port, I can certainly put a micro SD card into an adapter. And if I put the full-size SD card into my regular camera, I'm going to have fewer problems with it than if I use an adapter. I'm just that's one thing that I'm really, really sorry to go, because I now have to carry 2 different SD card adapters as part of my everyday carry on my laptop bags, and it seems
if I wanted that, I would have
unnecessary.
stuck with compact flash.
Or Sony Mavic. Keep a box of 3.5-inch floppies.
A zip drive.
I actually have a digital music player that uses the Bernoulli Click, like the tiny little version of the Bernoulli drive. It's like, oh my god.
We need a camera. I just need a camera that'll use my SideQuest. That's what I'm looking for.
Yes.
So, Rene, you talked a little bit about this AirPower, I should say. And the rumors keep getting stronger that we're going to finally see this. You think?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like they've come up with a new design that mitigates the heat issues by readjusting the way the coils are dispersed and getting a little bit thicker and things like that. And so, I mean, it'd be a shame if we never got it. I don't know how many people would be interested in it, at this price and with what it does. But Apple did show it off, and they got to ship it.
Yeah. They'd also have to ship new AirPod holder, right? That's got wireless built in.
Yeah, I mean, that's supposed to come with the new AirPods, and you're supposed to be able to get a separate one, at least if it's the same story that it was a year and a half ago. You're supposed to be able to get a separate one if you want it for your existing AirPods.
I guess they wouldn't bundle it with the AirPower because not everybody has AirPods.
No, yeah.
Okay.
It's weird, isn't it? Because you have three separate pieces of technology. You have the charger, which a lot of people are going to want. You have the charging case, which people will want, even if they don't want to buy Apple's charger. They still will want to be able to toss onto a cheap pad. And then you have the possibility of upgraded AirPods themselves, which, given that Apple went from essentially having the truly wireless earbuds market totally to themselves, now there are a few other makers who are making really, really good, truly wireless earbuds. I'm really keen to see what Apple will do to say, no. You're nice. It's adorable that you're making these, but watch how an expert does it, because it's one of the best products they've ever made, which makes me super excited to see what they're going to do with the next version of it.
Yeah.
But again, who's going to upgrade at this? Is everybody going to upgrade everything at the same time, or are they going to? If Apple gives them the choice of just getting a new battery case, will they say, "This will do it for me just for now"?
We all lost our AirPods. We lose them every month anyway, Andy. So we have to keep buying new ones. So we'll just buy the ones with the new case.
I'm on my third set. That's not too bad.
I've got 2 sets of the AirPods. I just have one case. So
that's good.
I misplaced a case somewhere. Yeah.
That's weird, but it's good.
I don't know where I put the case.
At least you have the AirPods.
I was wearing the AirPods, and then I couldn't find where to put the case. I don't know what happened.
I did a speculative video yesterday where I talked about when, the Apple Watch is becoming almost as good as the iPhone, and eventually the AirPods will be almost as good as the Apple Watch, and they'll have tiny 6G modems in them, and they'll be able to stream Apple Music and stream AR directions and workouts, and you'll have like legitimate ear computers. And I don't know if that's 5 years away or longer, but I cannot wait for that reality to be true.
That was a really good piece, and I think that it's even closer than that, given that the Apple Watch has the ability to connect to the internet via basically keeping an eye on a phone that's docked back at home. All you really need is your voice assistant and the ability to enable to flip a switch on the phone and say, yes, by all means, give me proactive alerts, not just system alerts, not just application alerts, but if my voice assistant thinks that it needs to remind me that, it's just going to rain in 3 hours, you really need to know that, or hey, there's a situation happening that you need to be advised of, or just the simple idea of tapping your ear and taking a note or putting a reminder for yourself. I really think that we are seeing augmented reality. We're the only thing that we're both with Google and Apple, we're seeing all the features of an unreleased augmented reality headset. They just don't have the hardware yet, but they've got the software nearly done, and they've already released them as discrete features for our earbuds and for our phones.
I have to say, it's gotten way too complicated. I now carry AirPods with me, which, by the way, I've printed in big letters my name on.
Right.
Because they all look the same, and we have many AirPods floating around, and I never know, are these the ones? And I have to pair it to figure it out. I also have the Jabra, which do the same thing. They're also, wireless in-ear.
It's more than you have
monitors.
Ears now, Leo.
Well, I don't know why. I just and then truthfully, most of the time I go to my headphone pack, which is just jammed because it has
it's all the dongles.
It has Type C. It has dongles for Type C, Lightning, and it's just I got two. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Last month I finally had to solve a problem by buying like 3 or 4 or 5 sets of earbuds just to make sure that every bag that I have and even like whenever I load up my get dressed and load up my pockets with stuff, at least I have one thing that I know is going to work, some sort of a wired headphone.
That's exactly
that is not going to need a repair. Yeah.
It's I think of it as saturating the environment.
Right.
So I do the same thing with reading glasses. It's ballpoint pens. Just saturate the environment so that you'll, it takes a certain number, maybe 30 or 40 pens, but eventually there won't be anywhere you can go that doesn't have a pen.
I have found that there's one setting that I'm missing in iOS, which is that I just want to have a button that says if you're not connected to headphones, I never ever want you to make a noise. It's like there's just
that's really good.
Some setting that just says always silent in physical.
Android has that. Android has a permanent do not disturb mode. You put it in there, it won't do anything. It won't even accept notifications. Nothing.
Well, I don't mean not the notifications, but I just want what always drives me crazy is I unhook them or they get unpaired,
and then it starts.
And
making
suddenly
noise.
it starts playing a movie, in the middle of a movie.
No, this
or whatever,
does this.
and it's
that's the do not disturb mode in Android.
Well, because
that does it.
And
you just press that.
And because this is an Apple podcast, I'll say something nasty about Android in this regard. It also allows apps to say, whenever earphones are connected, start playing automatically. And I have this album. Yeah, whenever I forget to turn it off, whenever I plug something in, suddenly it starts playing stuff and no, I was just charging something.
Well, it's like this for me. It's like the CNN site. You go to every article on the CNN site creates audio. You're just like, and so you have to. It's nice with the little dock or DOS keyboard or whatever that I have. It's got the little scroller, so I can just I go, I'm going to CNN. I'm going to scroll down my audio before I go there because I know I don't want to listen or watch the movie that you have.
Whenever I'm in bed, first thing I do before I even turn on the phone. I have to turn it on to do this, but I dim the screen and I turn all the sounds off as low as I can go, right? Otherwise, I know it. Something will blare out and Lisa will go, "What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Knock it off." Let's see. Let's do a ZipRecruiter, and we'll have more in just a bit. Apple just bought a new voice startup. We can talk about that. Ooh. Our show today brought to you by ZipRecruiter. We use ZipRecruiter. We love ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter really has been a boon for us. Hiring, is important in a business. I've said this before. You're building the company just like you would build a house with bricks. And as the house stands or falls, depending on the materials you use, your company soars or crashes depending on the people you build it with. Hiring is the single most important thing you do in a company. But it's hard because there's a lot of different job sites. You end up getting your inbox and your phone messages filled with applicants. The process of reviewing different resumes, they all look different. We can make it a lot easier with ZipRecruiter. That's why we do it. One place to go for everything. First of all, a posting on ZipRecruiter goes to 100-plus job sites. One click of the mouse, 100 job sites. So you're getting everywhere. And presuming the right person's out there, and I think the right person is somewhere out there, you got to go where they are looking. So putting it on all those sites is fantastic. But then ZipRecruiter goes a step farther than any other site. It scans all the resumes in its possession, and I have many because people apply at ZipRecruiter, and they'll go through them, and they'll look for people with the right experience for the job you just posted. And now they won't just give that information to you. They'll invite them to apply to your job. The applicant gets the invite, looks at it, says, hey, yeah, I would like that job, and applies. And I can tell you the net result because we've experienced it. That means within a few hours of posting, you're going to start getting candidates, qualified candidates. As those applications come in, ZipRecruiter actually analyzes them, spotlights the top candidates, puts them right at the top so you won't miss them. It is so effective. 80% of the employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. We've used it to post for a variety of jobs, and almost invariably we'll get great candidates right away. Right now, MacBreak Weekly listeners can try ZipRecruiter free, so there's no reason to trust me. Just try it, and you'll see at our exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. Almost always you'll have many good candidates in the time frame of the trial. I mean, it's just amazing. Show your support for the show and ZipRecruiter by going to ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. They've supported us, and we like supporting them. ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. Did anybody want? I heard a intake of breath. Either somebody sat on something or somebody wanted to say something? No? Okay. Our show continues with the story that Apple has purchased Pullstring. I know these guys. I talked to them when they first started out. They had, I think it was on Triangulation. I don't, maybe Karsten remembers. They used to be called Toy Talk. Does that ring a bell? And they had an application that was really cool that your kid would run the application. It would talk to characters in the application, and they would talk back. Well, Apple's purchased them. Toy Talk was founded in 2011 by a group of former Pixar executives. It was the technology used in a lot of physical toys. I think Mattel used them a lot. Hello Barbie, for instance. Now, here's my question. This was the Speakazoo. That was the app that we showed on the website. This was an interview to Oren about. This was, you would get to talk to these animals. And what would happen is there was some AI involved, or some, Amazon Echo-like intelligence, because it would respond to what you said to it. They got in a little bit of trouble, I remember, because some parents were very worried about the fact that the kids were telling them stuff. But I've noticed since then that they've really got a very strict privacy policy. They actually, before you can, as a kid, start using their apps, parents have to email a consent, so that there's no question that the parent knows what's going on here. Did they rename themselves Pullstring? I guess they did.
Yep.
Okay, so it's the full company that Apple bought.
Yeah.
So deal now. Maybe this isn't such a good thing. The Pullstring had raised about $44 million in venture capital. Its most recent valuation, $160 million. Apparently, Apple paid $30 for it, plus around $10 million in earnouts for management. So that's maybe not a big, that Apple got a deal, shall we say?
TechCrunch, I think it was some VC ran the math, and they were saying like what that number is on paper versus what the investors and the founders can actually recoup are often very different things.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's more complicated than that. Really, from our point of view, it's not about whether Pullstring made money. It's why Apple bought them, and it clearly gives them some Amazon Echo style capabilities.
The fantasy is that this could eventually allow you to make Siri shortcuts using Siri. And then evolve from there, so that you could say, "Yo Jimbo, I want an app. I want Yo Jimbo, do this and then that and then this and give me that." And it would basically, Brian Remley's talked about a lot of this stuff, but you'd basically be able to build your own automations using your voice, and it would be another step towards Siri becoming its own AI OS, which is what a lot of us are looking forward to.
Yeah, I'm surprised Apple doesn't promote. I'm surprised Apple doesn't promote shortcuts more. It is one of the most miraculous things available on any phone anywhere. And the ability to trigger these things with Siri is just delightful as hell.
I follow
and you could theoretically get all the skills in there. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
You could theoretically get a lot of because right now Amazon has a huge database of a huge platform of skills, and Google's got a large one, and Apple has very, very few Siri intents and a lot of shortcuts. But this is what people could use to make a lot of Siri skills very quickly. Not just you making your own with like Siri shortcuts, but companies and everybody building quicker, easier, better Siri skills all on their own.
Yeah, you can get I get a lot of shortcuts from Reddit. There's a really good subreddit.
Yeah.
However, of late, people have been warning about malicious shortcuts and reminding people when you download a shortcut from the web, you should absolutely look at every step in the shortcut and make sure it's something you want, because it's very, very easy to write a shortcut that would,
download all the money in my bank account.
Well, usually not that, but send out your contact list to a stranger and
then download all the money in my bank account.
Guillermo Rambo has a good site for shortcuts as well that I think is, I forget what he calls it, shortcut something, but it is probably a little safer than Reddit.
Yeah, or if you get it from Federico Vitici, because his stuff
his are terrific.
He is. I mean, I've never seen. I mean, I don't know. He's crazy.
He's a maestro.
He must spend all his time writing shortcuts, and
all that espresso has to go somewhere, Leo.
We recently in the studio audience had somebody who works on the Xcode team. And I said, you gotta make it better for shortcuts. If we could code shortcuts, debug shortcuts like we do Xcode, now we're talking.
All right, mate, we'll get right on that.
I do think there's a gap between.
Oh, you know him.
Half that team. That applies to about half that team now.
I really think that there's a gap between shortcuts and Swift that is nodal, where you could say, I want this input, and then you can like build a little graph of what you want it to do. That's a little bit more complex than what Shortcuts does and a little less difficult than what Swift is, where you could build it. And if you think of like Shake, or you think of Fusion, those types of things, where you're able to, we build in compositing really complex interactions that are very much like programming, very complex processes that don't require coding. And then what happens is, if you look at like Pixel Conduit, which is something we kind of helped with, or we sold for a long time, you'd even have like a little node that is code. You just insert JavaScript, and so
actually Conduit would be a good model for this kind of visual scripting.
Exactly. So you just visually script most of it, and then you write the code that you need to write for this one thing that you can't find a node for. And then there's a whole possibility of concatenating all of that and even selling that as a product. You put it all together, and then you concatenate it, and then encrypt it and put it out on the App Store or whatever. And people could be in this kind of that creative space between Shortcuts, which is kind of just solving your own problems, and Swift, which is really real coding. And then this in between that you could really have entrepreneurs and other people building that stuff out, and tying that into Interface Designer and all those other things would be it's not the first time that anyone's ever done it. I mean, this is Visual Basic, that Microsoft did a long time ago. But this could be a lot more advanced and a lot more intuitive today than it was back then.
Yeah. There's so much that hasn't been done with shortcuts and with Siri in general. Right. I think that one of the most useful things that should be on every single smart assistant is just the ability to say, Shlomo, remember that the last train out of Boston is 11:31 p.m. And so that it will be able to then unpack any requests like Shlomo, when's the last train out of Boston? Or Shlomo, what's my cousin's shoe size? Or
my wife loves this best of Brazilian. It's a David Byrne album that is like best of Brazilian music.
Oh, I love that. That's this. Samba.
Yeah,
it's so good.
And she loves this one disc. And watching her try to tell our Amazon look or our Amazon show,
you can't. Yeah.
She goes, do the one by David. Like, she goes through this whole process, and every once in a while she gets it, and then we get. Otherwise, it's like some random, I'm gonna put a skill into the Amazon where she can just go Amazon, or Shlomo. Play my favorite Brazilian. Like I'm just gonna tell it when she says this. Play this album so that we can just avoid that problem.
Can I don't know if Shlomo does this or with Apple Music. Wouldn't be surprised if it did. But on Google Google Play Music, if you've got the Google Assistant, you can say play that album. That's a cover is a baby like that's chasing after like a dollar underwater, and it will say playing Nevermind by Nirvana, and it works with so many albums.
Boy, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Because
they're really going to take over, aren't they?
Play that Joe Jackson album where it's just pointy shoes and shadow, like playing, look sharp. Like, all right.
How can it do that, but then copy strike a bunch of unnecessary? I don't understand this AI stuff. It's like so high.
Because it knows I need to find my Joe Jackson albums.
That's the holy grail, though. Really is the holy grail. Yeah. We're not anywhere near close to that. Pullstring could be a lot more than shortcuts. Why is everybody focused on shortcuts? I mean, there's so many things Pullstring could be.
Because they want. I think just in general over the longer span of history, we want to see. I use the word "we" colloquially. Want to see iOS and macOS sort of abstracted away by a layer of voice and AR and AI interface. And part of that interface, the voice, is going to be integral to it, and it's going to have to be a platform where the idea of apps are different enough from what we have now that they'll mostly be a series of functions that you can call and cobble together at will. And Siri shortcuts is the closest thing we have to that sort of hypercard of the future model. So I think that's why people start to focus on that a lot.
Okay.
And now Siri's answering me.
You still get into this thing where you're just like, oh, I'm gonna ask for something, and you're like, oh, that's gonna be too complicated. Like it's not gonna be able to figure this out, and and you just go back into typing or whatever. And I think that you're right that we want to get to a point where we can explain it as if we would explain it to a person, and have it
like Jarvis.
Do that. Yeah, exactly.
We want Jarvis. What's so hard with that? Just make us Jarvis. Get Paul Bettany on the phone.
Exactly.
Jarvis is needlessly overcomplicated.
Why haven't they paid Paul Bettany a lot of money to just respond like Siri?
I know, right? Like Google, you'd think would be first on that. Maybe he's got an exclusive deal with Marvel that he can't do voice assistants.
That would be amazing.
You know that if Jonathan Harris were still alive, he'd be like making all kinds of bank, like from Lost in Space.
Yeah,
like saying, "Oh, be sure to take a jacket. It's going to be a bit chilly outside today, I think."
Or just we in a world.
So apparently the fix to the group FaceTime bug was just to eliminate the add person feature.
No, but that's hugely funny.
So someone had a long weekend planned.
that feature has been modified somewhat, right?
Yeah, well, I think this was just it was taking longer to get it out, and this is probably something that had to, they decided to ship it before they got everything fixed. The developer version came out today, by the way, so if you're on the developer track, you want to download today's update because that'll fix the FaceTime group bug.
Finally, because it was fixed for the rest of us last week, but now it's fixed for everybody. Good. Apple is bringing podcasting to the Apple Watch.
You can now podcast from your Apple Watch.
No.
You should be. I can see Leo doing it from the hotel, though, right into his...
thanks to Anchor. Anchor is this is the tool that Spotify bought. It's somebody likened it to WordPress for podcasts. It's a very nice...
So Leo drafts from your watch to Anchor to a podcast.
I think actually easier than that. If I use just press record on my watch, I could import it into Anchor once I got to the phone. Anchor, there's no reason Anchor couldn't make. Except that usually when you post a podcast, you want to do a little more than just, okay, this is a podcast.
But if
Here
you're
you
in
go.
the field, like you're being chased by a velociraptor and you want to do a live podcast, like it's just so
I did
convenient.
that when it was announced Spotify bought Anchor. I thought, well, this would be a good time for me to make another. I've made like 10. I have this complete throwaway podcast I do called Leo on the Line, or Lotl.
I'm a subscriber.
At lotl.fun. LOTL. And the whole idea of it, I don't know. It's just whenever I feel like it. So when they did that, I thought, well, I'll use Anchor. And it was very easy. I was sitting in a hotel room. I was lying down. I recorded it on my phone. I added some music. There you go. And that's it. And it's about as easy publishing a podcast. And I think it automatically goes to iTunes, and people can subscribe to it. It stores the content. You get statistics. You get all that stuff.
Right.
So I can't remember why I brought that up. Oh, well, if you want a podcast from your watch, that would be the way to do it.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're talking about here. The official podcast app finally is going to work on your watch. This is something Overcast has done, Pocket Cast does, but Apple finally added this feature. And here's the iMore article talking about it.
I've been trying to expand my listening to podcasts beyond what I've been listening to for years. And all I'd like to say, if you're listening to this show, is audio quality is important.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people.
Yeah. Like it just
make sure everybody mutes turns off their phone before they come on the show.
Sorry. It didn't ring.
No, I'm just kidding. No, our audio is so good I could hear the vibrations.
Yeah, it didn't ring. It didn't ring. But yeah, I'm just always surprised at how people don't pay attention to quality mics.
Yeah.
I can't listen to it.
That's
here's
changing.
The problem that I have is that I can hear, now that I'm wearing headphones all the time, I can hear the return audio in NPR's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so when NPR is talking to someone and they're talking over ISDN and their headphones are on too high,
that's bad.
I can hear the little echo in the background, and it makes me crazy. And then the other thing is I hate phoners. I hate phone call when they call a representative or they call some expert and he's coming in over their phone. I'm like, get him somewhere with a real mic. I mean, send him a mic, FedEx a mic. That's all I gotta say.
Well, podcasts, thanks to Spotify, podcasts are having a renaissance.
I think it's thanks to all these smart speakers. I mean, everybody's got a speaker.
I think it's awesome.
In
fact,
love
it's the one thing I worry about with Spotify, because some of their exclusive podcasts I can't listen to on my smart speaker because I don't have a paid Spotify account or something. Maybe I haven't set up Spotify. I don't know what it is.
Right.
And I suspect that one of the things that's going to happen with Spotify is they're going to start saying, you got to be exclusive to our platform.
Like Netflix.
I don't understand that at all.
Right. You don't think that'll happen?
No, I'm saying I don't understand that at all. I don't understand why a podcaster would want to be exclusive to one service.
Right, but you understand why Spotify
I think the service
does
is going to own them, though.
Absolutely. I mean, if
they bought Gimlet, right? So
that's
the
whole
Gimlet
point,
stuff
is
will
they
just
bought
be
Gimlet.
exclusive. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I tried to listen to Reply All on my Google Home, and it said, "I'm sorry, I can't do that."
Yeah.
And I think it's because it's exclusive to Spotify.
Yeah. It's just wrong for a company to basically say, we're going to take this from you, meaning you're a worldwide audience, irrespective of platform, and we're going to give you nothing in return. Like if a company wanted to say, guess what, we will pay you $1,000 per episode for exclusivity, that's another thing.
Yeah.
But if they're basically saying that not only are you going to be struggling for all the reasons why a new podcast struggles, we're also going to make sure that we're not going to give you anything in return for exclusivity except for the ability to put this special. We'll give you the ability to put this special GIF in your show page that says, "Ooh, we're a Spotify exclusive."
But see, that's exactly what Apple's trying to do with news. The theory is join these big platforms, and we'll help you reach an audience. And
we'll monetize you.
We'll monetize you. Yeah, and it could be an empty promise. There's no guarantee. And so that's exactly what Spotify's promising. We have an ad engine, so when people listen on Spotify and they don't have a paid tier, we're going to have revenue generated by your podcast. And if they are on the paid tier, we'll give you a share, whatever it is, of that revenue. And we have 200 million users, so you're going to be. It's kind of exactly the same pitch Apple makes with news, except that Apple's not asking for exclusivity.
But I mean, it's the same way that lynda.com worked, and in fact, you didn't even know what the percentage was. I don't even think we knew what the percentage of lynda.com was, going out to all the users. But I know that I have a lot of friends that have built a lot of stuff on lynda.com and LinkedIn, and they I don't know, I made something and I get about $4,000 a month.
Ben Thompson talks a ton about this. This is what Ben's whole thing of aggregators is all about, is this notion that the real money to be made is to be made by aggregators these days, places like Facebook, Apple, Spotify. That's the way to play it. And I agree with you, Andy. But that's a very old school attitude. It's the same attitude we had about blogs too, which is it's a democratizing medium that anybody can create a podcast, and it should be.
Now you have Medium,
and anybody could listen to it. Yeah. Now you have Medium and you have Spotify, right?
It's not just democratizing. It's actually like capitalistic. It's that if someone wanted to offer me exclusivity on something that I want to create or something, basically, if someone wants to say distribute through our platform, and we will take all of these headaches off of your hands. You will not have to worry about selling ads. You won't have to worry about hosting. You won't have to worry about number of how much it's going to cost you to have X number of downloads. And to a certain extent, we will do some of the promotion for you. That might actually work. But I think that you have to present a case to each creator that says that we're going to give you an opportunity that you won't have otherwise. And a lot of the negatives aren't coming across in all these rumors that we're hearing about Apple, and also stuff that we're hearing from Spotify. I just don't want to. I don't want to see all these creators, particularly people who are just starting out, to fall into this trap of thinking that no, you need to have the backing of Apple, you need to have the backing of Spotify, when really what you need is to find 5,000 people or 10,000 people that really love what you do, and 1,000 people who kind of like or kind of are okay with what you do is not as valuable as people that you can sell a T-shirt to.
I don't know. As someone who's created a lot of my own content and created a lot of apps and done a lot of other things, it's hard. It's hard to get people to come to you, and it's and so I think that there's
a real value in.
I would have made a lot more money if the App Store had existed when I was.
You want to know how
you
get to be a successful podcast?
Start
Apple. You get featured. No, you get featured by Apple on iTunes.
Yeah, no,
that is literally the only way.
Yeah.
Everything else is a waste of time.
Yeah, and it's like and I think that the you can have everyone come to your farm, or you can go to a farmer's market, or you can sell it to a supermarket, or sell it to a distributor to supermarkets. Like there's models of, there are people who do it, and then there's people who market it and sell it, and you definitely give up percentages. And the person selling the raw milk is making a lot less money than the person. That there's people taking money all the way through that process to the point where I'm pouring it into my glass, and so that
that's where Anchor is so great. I mean, you could literally do it from your watch or your phone,
but you still need that platform.
Yeah, but that you rely on them. Yeah. And now that there's Spotify, you are in fact making an exclusive podcast for Spotify. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
And maybe, and you know what? Maybe somebody's going to come along, make a podcast that goes viral. Spotify's going to sell ads. This guy's going to make money. People make money on YouTube all the time. You have to put up with a lot of crap, as we were talking about before the show began, with this silly strike system. But on the other hand, that's a powerful platform. I was talking
to a guy. I'm not going to mention who he is, but I was working with a guy, and I was asking, how much do you actually make on YouTube?
Most people nothing.
No. He was like, make about $60,000 a month.
What?
And I was like, okay, well there you go. He's like, it's okay. Now he's got
apparently the
millions
makeup
and
channels make a
and everything else,
because the margins are so high.
Absolutely.
But when he started, he was just making videos that he thought were funny, and then a couple of them went viral.
He must be very good.
He's very good.
Was he a Viner or a?
He was not a Viner, but he's in a specific vertical, and he just.
And this is all from YouTube selling ads, or does he?
It's a mixture of YouTube and Facebook, And
see, a lot of people, like the makeup people, make money because they sell gift baskets. They sell,
or they get sponsors. Like they had a controversy over gambling sponsors, and one guy said, "I got offered $150,000 for that ad." Another guy said, "I have, I think, 3 times as many subscribers. Can you imagine how much I got offered for that?"
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go.
So the thing is that, and what happened is a lot of them built up and they did their own little thing, and then I mean, if you look at like Zach King, is that right? Zach King, the guy who does all the little. He started off in Vine. You're doing little things that appear and disappear, and and now he's doing. I saw him at an Apple store on the huge screen explaining how he does his little little thing, but he started just doing things, and putting them up there, and but he couldn't do it without those platforms. First without Vine, and then without YouTube, and he got paid a pittance to get started. But now he's got a lot of leverage, and I think that there is a way to kind of work your way up through that system. It is really hard to work up without those platforms. The
thing that's interesting to me about it is like when if I watch a video about the Galaxy, whatever next Galaxy S10 that comes out, it'll recommend 3 other videos that I might like about it. Now, yes, there are all sorts of things about like conspiracy theories and really bad videos. But if I listen to like a podcast on it, there's nothing that recommends 3 other awesome podcasts on the same topic. So I don't have that discovery ability, and individual shows don't have that that force multiplying factor.
But that's something Spotify probably could do, right? In their
and there are apps that do it. Like there are really good podcast clients that do it, but they're not ubiquitous.
Yeah, it's interesting. Apple could have done what Spotify's hoping to do, and deferred.
Still,
and they still could.
Yeah.
A lot of podcasters are super happy they don't get involved. So
absolutely. They already wield so much power with their editorial selections. Huawei, turns out, this is from The Information, and what a great story. Good, as usual, great reporting from The Information, Wayne Ma. Turns out Huawei was incenting employees to steal trade secrets. For instance, in November, a Huawei engineer in charge of their smartwatch tracked down a supplier that helps make Apple's heart rate sensor, arranged a meeting on the pretext of offering the supplier a contract. But the engineer really wanted details on the Apple Watch.
Yep.
And in this case, got nothing because the firm has an NDA with Apple and no supplier is going to screw Apple. But this is apparently a pattern that Huawei is incentive employees, and particularly Apple is often one of the subjects of their industrial espionage. Yeah. I'm always nervous about doing these Huawei stories because there's such a drumbeat, and I wonder if it's coming from, xenophobia or the trade war. Yeah. But there's now enough information about Huawei. I think it's fair to say the Justice Department says Huawei had a formal program that rewarded employees for stealing information with bonuses that increased based on the confidential value of the information. Huawei employees were encouraged to post stolen information on an internal company website. They were also given an email address where they could send the information, which was then reviewed by what was known internally as the Competition Management Group. Huawei assured employees they wouldn't be punished for taking such action. Now, competitive research is a big business in every business. Mm-hmm. It's just how far you'll go, whether you cross the line, lie, cheat, steal, and bribe to get that information.
Yeah.
Yeah, you ever consider that maybe MingChi Kuo doesn't have great contacts within the Apple supply chain? He just knows the people at Huawei who steal Apple secrets.
There you go.
I mean, I think he's. I don't want to say too much on this, but
you obviously
he's getting his information because
than you're willing to admit.
There's an open market for trade secrets in China. Yeah. A lot of people benefit from.
Yes, and I think some of that is cultural. Some of it's just the way it's done. Right?
It's also, I think, China.
Well, there was this.
China is very focused on. They need to move up the food chain, and they have to move up quickly because the value of low cost labor will become less valuable as automation steps in. So so you can't just be the lowest cost producers because there's going to be machines that do that soon. We're going to bring actually a lot of production back to the United States because it'll just be machines.
Right.
And so I think that
no more jobs. Just. Unless you're a machine
or make machines,
machine supervisor.
So eventually, the machines will make the machines, and so. But the issue is that that China, I'm sure, understands this. I mean, Foxconn's talking about getting rid of 90% of their employees, and so they have to move up that food chain, and they're working really hard at doing that, and I'm not defending China. I mean, I think we shouldn't be using Huawei's 5G. I believe all of that. But in understanding it, just remember that every country has done what they needed to do to be successful. Yes. We did a lot of horrible things 100 years ago, very, very horrible things. We, I mean, maybe even 10 years ago, you know, and so, but we've done a lot of horrible things to get this country to where it is. The UK did lots of horrible things to get to where they're at. The Chinese are doing what they need to do to move their country forward. It's an evolution of almost every country to do things when they have the leverage to do it.
It was back when there was all the lawsuits over Apple and Samsung and whether Samsung copied Apple. Someone explained to me that, you know, this is what happened with refrigerators. They just said these are smart things. Why wouldn't we use them? And it took like a whole bunch of years for refrigerator trademarks to be battled out. And then every industry sort of goes through this, and every culture has very different ideas about what's in the common good and what's in the specific company good. And all of these things have to be settled.
It is a government-fed priority in China, but also we're talking about practices that happen in our country day after day after day. There's no shortage of stories about people who are brought in for an interview because they maybe they want to get hired. They're being brought in for an interview for a job at Google, but maybe Google just wants to know about their research they're doing at the Media Lab, and if any of it is restricted by patent yet. Remember, they got into trouble, I think it was last year, the year before, about exactly that sort of thing. Someone who was a senior researcher at the Media Lab who was doing expert stuff on, I believe, technology-based textiles, had this very, very long interview process, was actually offered a job at their biggest, like, New York-based skunk works, and when they turned down the job, but shortly, a few months after the interview, turns out that Google took out patents on her research, and Google said, "Oh, it was a misunderstanding. We'll take that patent stuff off now."
And there was all the car stuff, right? Like everybody is trying to steal car stuff from everybody else.
The most revered inventor in America, a guy who's basically considered a saint, pretty much stole everything. Thomas Edison. I mean, if you do some research, he didn't invent the light bulb. He didn't invent the X-ray. He didn't invent the phonograph. He didn't invent the motion picture. He had many patents, but I think it's widely accepted that he also stole many ideas. And that's America.
Yeah. Well, that's a different thing. Even the like mouse and pointer based computers that preceded the Macintosh, those were extensions of research that had been happening for years and years and years. Xerox might be famous for, quote, inventing, but not being able to capitalize on the mouse and the GUI. But this was something that for 10 years before that was being talked about as this is something we'd love to be able to do, or wouldn't it be great if we could have a document-focused principle of computing. Sometimes it's just one person is the first person to get there. And a lot of times it is based on looking at other people's research, stealing parts of other people's research even. And for all that, I'm sorry, just to make a quick point of it. For all that, sometimes it's not just that someone's, quote, stole a certain idea, but they were able to apply it in exactly the right way, and they were able to package and sell it in a way that the original creator would never have figured out.
I was going to say the same thing. Sometimes the stealing, the quote unquote stealing, is the fact that you understand what they could do with that, and they didn't. Like someone comes up with an idea, and they think that it's useful for X when what the world really needs is Y, and you just go, well, I'm going to take this and make it available to Y. And I see that. There's a lot of companies that build technology, then you look at it and you go, that's not going to work with what they want. This is what it's actually useful for, and then they never go down that path.
Particularly when you have a company that has a lot of tradition and a really deeply ingrained corporate culture, where Polaroid could not see digital photography as anything more than a new version of instant photography. They couldn't figure out that, no, this means that pictures are digital and now are malleable and fungible and transmittable. Xerox could not see the GUI as much more than, here is a super photocopier where the document that you're making copies of actually started off on this screen. Isn't that amazing? Whereas you need a computer company to say, no, that would make computers really a lot easier to do if all the commands were actually written out for you on a screen and you just had to click on things, as opposed to having to remember a command line with lots of periods and slashes on it.
Let's talk about I'm a genius. You're a genius. You're all geniuses. Our friends at iFixit, a longtime sponsor on the show, have created a campaign because, of course, they are all about the right to repair, saying we've been bred to believe that only geniuses and geeks can fix our stuff. It wasn't always that way. That which we call a genius. I don't know how you finish that sentence, but we're all geniuses. So I have to say I'm a fan of the right to repair movement. Apparently, so is the big insurance company Allstate. They own SquareTrade. SquareTrade does those extended warranties for a lot of your electronics. SquareTrade just purchased iCracked, which is a third-party iPhone repair company, and I have a feeling this is going to put Allstate right in the center spotlight on the right to repair movement. So that will be very interesting. Right to repair is now not yet on the books, but in the legislatures of 15 states. I can't remember which state is already made that the law. Apple, John Deere, and others are fighting this whole notion. But now we have a big ally on our side, a big insurance company. Of course, it makes sense. It's in their best interest.
I guess another thing the EU is trying to legislate, and we don't know how well that will work, but we are thankful for the effort.
They're just so bad at getting stakeholder investment before they draft legislature.
I don't know.
But that's how things get weakened to pointlessness. If you say, guess what, Apple, who has a vested interest in making sure that people can't replace their own batteries and that can't add RAM
no, but
to their
ask
own computers.
iFixit. They wouldn't even ask iFixit. They would tell iFixit how to best do their job, and iFixit would go, please, no, stop.
Right.
We have to tax you for every part. You got to pay a $100 fee for every part, but we think that's fair. And iFixit you just killed us. Thank you.
So I love this feature on the Apple Insider, the Apple Crime Blotter. Maybe I'll pass along a few items from the Apple Crime Blotter and point you to appleinsider.com for more of them. There's a man in Portland, Oregon, who stole from the Apple Store nearly daily. He would wait for the store's guard to take a break, and then he'd run in the store, steal about $700 worth of Bose headphones, then run back out. He had a heroin habit, of course, but...
he's just trying to close his activity rings on his Apple Watch that he stole a month previously.
My favorite, though, is the El Chapo branded iPhone accessories. El Chapo's daughter is planning to sell El Chapo 701 branded products, including iPhone accessories, shirts, hats, and cigars. It's not really a great site, apparently. But, oh no, maybe this is the news site. That's pretty funny. Oh yeah, here's the Instagram. Oh, it's been removed. Well, so much for that. That's what happens when you try to make money on your ill-gotten gains.
Or it's just the Instagram algorithm. We can never be sure.
Anyway, there's a lot of... I like reading the... police blotter in our small town paper because it's so silly.
They remind when they turned on Apple News Canada. It's going to come officially with iOS 12.2. And the first two stories I saw, I think I said this, was drunk man rides moose and maple syrup spill.
Yes.
And I don't know if they were clowning us or if that was real news.
Yes. Just what we suspected. If it were a Mountie, then we'd really know it was real.
Sam Steele.
The best Canadian story was the whole story about the stolen maple syrup.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Did they ever prove that was Jim Dalrymple? I don't know if they ever did or not.
What? I don't think they ever
proved that was Jim Dalrymple. I don't know.
No. If Jim Dalrymple ever stole syrup, it would be in his beard for 3 weeks. You'd never get away with it.
Never get it back. So Wednesday, there will be no surprises, but we will be covering at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern time, the big Samsung Galaxy 10 reveal.
Whatever are they going to reveal, Leo? I'm going to be totally shocked.
We've even seen an ad for it. In fact, we know now that the name of the folding phone will be the Galaxy Fold.
So good.
This is in some language I don't know, but here somewhere somehow this is leaked out. Ultrasonic Fingerstreichshafen. Is that Finnish, Swedish, something Scandinavian? It looks like based on the.
But what I can't tell is the fake leaks from the real ones. Like there was a leak showing that they had to have a cutout for the ultrasonic fingerprint sensor on a screen protector, and some people said that was real, and some people said no, that's ridiculous. And I can't tell reality from fiction anymore,
At
Leo.
this point, we'll find out.
Yep.
But notice, by the way, something that looks a lot like AirPods.
Yeah.
Not so much like AirPods. They look like Bose headphones or pretty much every other.
I guess.
It's an AirPod
really
case. They don't like AirPods. They're little AirPod case.
They're white. They did steal like the worst thing about AirPods. They made it a white case that when you take it out of your pocket, it gets so much of the dark cruft from your pocket that it looks filthy, and you don't want to put these things in your ears.
It's called the zebra look, Andy, and some of us are aficionados.
They also are scooping Apple's 3 lenses.
Gotta pay Huawei royalties.
Yeah.
Is this going to be like Gillette, where they just say, "Oh, well, guess what? Now we've got 5 lenses. Well, now we've got 6 lenses."
Anyway, we'll find out what's up.
One of the videos went live accidentally, and they tried to take it down, but now it's just being replicated all over the internet. So
yeah. I think a lot of what this happens every time. I almost feel like Samsung kind of releases this ahead of time on purpose, just to keep people talking about it for more days than just the one event. But
it does show. I mean, I saw a bunch of people, like for years, we've had to put up with this in the Apple world, just going, "Oh, I'm so bored. I'm so bored."
Right.
And now they're saying, "Oh, I'm so bored with Samsung." Like this is what this market looks like now, people.
Yeah.
All I can say is that from a production perspective, all I hope for is that the Samsung figures out that the last thing that they did in front of a LED wall, like it was at some event,
that was cool.
Was psychedelic.
Like that?
It was psychedelic. I mean, it was
it's a little hard to follow.
Well, there was so much moire going on behind the guy. Yeah. Like every time they got to certain zoom lengths, it was like this horrible moire. And the problem is putting anybody in front of an LED wall is recipe for disaster unless you really are doing your math well. And they did not do their math well.
We'll find out on Wednesday.
Hopefully on Wednesday.
So the way we're going to do this is that's normally Windows Weekly time. We'll move that to 9 a.m., move it back a couple of hours, do Windows Weekly, then we'll do the Samsung event and This Week in Google. So a busy day. That's tomorrow.
Great.
Busy day tomorrow on Twit. Let's take a break, and when we come back, everybody will be very calm because it's time for an ad for Calm.com. I'm a Calm customer, have been for some time. Calm is a website that I really like, partly because it's not just meditation. Yes, it's meditation. They have a lot of meditations, including the Daily Calm. It's the #1 app, though, to help you not only meditate, but also sleep, also relax. They even have exclusive calm music and nature sounds. It is really the all-in-one place to get this. The Calm app is a prize winner, App of the Year from Apple in 2017, part of Apple's Best of 2018 list. I'm sure they'll win again in 2019. It's just very soothing and very nice. Let me, shall I play, let's see. I could play the Daily Calm. You want to hear the Daily Calm? It's very relaxing. And by the way, this is on the web. You get the beautiful imagery. Here's your Daily Calm. Actually, I'd listened to this once before.
Welcome to the Daily Calm. Today, we'll use the sound of the bell to return us to awareness. We'll use its ring to wake us to the present moment.
This is what you would call guided meditation. And I'm going to end this.
Taking a comfortable position of ease.
Okay, thank you. But they also have sleep. In fact, 7 days of sleep. You could do 7 lessons that would make you a better sleeper. They have sleep stories. We've talked before about Matthew McConaughey, but there's so many sleep stories. Some of them, it's nice because you can divide them up into different categories. Some of them are for learning. Some of them are fiction. So they're just stories like your mommy used to read you. Some for kids, which is nice, including some of the classics like Grimm Fairy Tales, The Emperor's New Clothes, The Nutcracker. There's sleep music. There's nature stories. And I like these because you can actually learn a lot. I did a tour of New Zealand with Bronn, the mercenary from Game of Thrones. and he was very peaceful. It was great. I learned a lot about New Zealand. Hidden Bali. A love letter to Africa. Some of this is really, I don't know. I love it all. So here's the deal. We're going to get you 25% off a Calm premium subscription. So like me, you can have access to everything. Should I play some relaxing, calm music here? Let me find something. Would you like a Rain in the City? Let's listen to some Rain in the City while I tell you how to get 25% off your Calm premium subscription. It's actually quite easy. It's just calm.com/MacBreak. See, for a city kid like me, this is very soothing. You hear the the cabs go by. Get unlimited content, unlimited access to all of Calm's content. Calm.com/MacBreak. Let me see what else we can listen to. This is a good one. Lisa likes this one. This is the purring cat. That doesn't make you sleepy. I don't know what will.
You need to have a furry pillow on your face to get the full effect, though.
That I can provide the furry pillow. Calm. I really love Calm. Calm.com/MacBreak. It's given me a whole new outlook on life. And now our picks of the week. Let's see. Who should I start with? How about you, Alex Lindsay? We could start at the high end.
So it's not that high. It's relatively inexpensive.
You just have a reputation.
I know. So
Yes.
This is both on iPhone and iOS. Have you seen Streetlytron Pro? This is like the Mellotron.
Ooh, I love Mellotrons.
But it is what's cool about it is that not only is it an app that has a lot of great samples, so you can have your basic ones here, but you can grab onto a lot of, they have a lot of the.
There's a chorus.
So you have
these are kind of classic synth sounds.
Classic synth sounds, but what's also cool is that it does recognize MIDI, so you can set up your MIDI, so you can set up an external keyboard hooked to your phone or hooked to your.
You have a Mellotron.
Yeah, and you can really actually start playing it and so on and so forth. And the fact that you can tie, I don't know, there was something about this that I was just like, I can't believe you can tie your phone into a keyboard and then produce content. I was just like, what happened?
It's pretty
here?
cool, isn't it?
25 years ago, I spent a lot of money on an EMU Emacs, to do the same thing. So anyway, it's just a really cool app. I think they have a free version as well, which is something. But this is the pro version. And it's $25 or what. Also can't believe you can have something that's quote unquote pro with this kind of features at $25.
Mellotronics.
So it's really cool.
Streetlytron Pro. It's an official Mellotron.
Yeah,
it's not a.
It's official.
It's official. It's the real deal.
We got some. I think these are actual samples from the tapes.
Oh, that's nice.
That's cool.
So the original Mellotron played tape loops, right? It wasn't.
Yeah. If you ever want to see a great documentary, I think Smithsonian was doing these documentaries about rock and roll, and one of them was keyboards, and it just it shows and it shows all these other these videos, and I remember we were watching after watching that, we were watching the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And my 9-year-old daughter was like, "Is that a Mellotron?" And my son said, "No, that's a Mini Moog."
Oh my God. You're raising them right. Like, You're raising them right. That's all I can say.
So anyways, it's a cool little
Mellotron.
These are inventions. It's a hard part with Smithsonian is you never know when it's going to be available on their app on Apple TV. It's like this random, like it appears and you can watch the whole thing and then it's gone. And you don't understand exactly. I don't understand their math on how that works, but it's sometimes there.
Andy Ihnatko, pick of the week.
If you went to the Brooklyn event at the Brooklyn Academy of Music, where they launched all the new Mac Minis and the new iPod Pro, the interstitials. They had this amazing set of animations Apple had of the Apple logo sort of transforming in and out of all these really cool. So Pedro Carrasco, a Swift developer, captured all of those animations off of the video that they released and turned it into a screensaver. It's called the Brooklyn Screensaver. You can download it off of GitHub.
Oh, I want it.
Oh, and it's so beautiful. It doesn't look like it's like it's not like low resolution VHS like video capture. It really made me think, until I talked to him about it just today. I was wondering, did he have access to certain files that he was not supposed to have access to? But no, he just grabbed it off the video, and it's so beautiful. It seems like such a waste that Apple just put these together for this event and didn't release a screensaver about it. I wish Apple would release more screensavers. They're so in their ads, in their events, they do so many beautiful animations and beautiful pieces of kinetic artwork, and it's a shame that it's used for this one event or this one campaign, and then you never see them again. Whereas if you put them into a screensaver, that's staying on my MacBook pretty much until the next official Apple created screensaver comes along. But so this is not necessarily officially Apple, but it is beautiful, and again, it is staying there until Armageddon, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Andy. That's a good pick. How about you, Rene? What do you have?
So I have more of a tip than a pick because Apple has told developers that they have until February 27th to lock their developer accounts behind two-factor authentication.
Oh.
And that is not a lot of time. Some people think it's in a response to the enterprise certificate abuse that TechCrunch and Reuters have been discovering, which has gone way beyond Facebook and Google at this point. But the end result is that you have to set this up before February 27th, or you can't download betas, you can't upload apps, you can't do anything that requires logging in to iTunes Connect, App Store Connect, Apple developer stuff. The issue is that a lot of people, almost everybody, doesn't have this on their main account, and it's non-trivial to set up two-factor for a secondary account. You can create a separate Mac user and log into iCloud there, and then enable telephone authentication, but SMS is really not a trustworthy method for relaying tokens. So once you do that, you can go into iOS, set up, just add an extra iCloud account, turn everything else off, and you should get the secure tokens for your developer account as well. But it's complicated enough that Lori Gill did an article and I did a video just sort of walking everybody through how to set this up, because the hard deadline is next week. And again, Apple did not make a system that will enable multiple two-factor authentication. They just mandated it. And that's not a very good position. It's a very stressful, high anxiety position to put developers in.
Good tip.
It's also, in case people aren't developers, if for any reason you need multiple two-factor, like you want it for your child's account, you have aged parents who want it for their account, you have a significant other and you want to be able to two-factor into each other's accounts, you have like a business partner, you want to share a developer account, this is a good way to set that up as well, so that you know who has it, you control it, but if one of you loses the trusted device, you're not totally screwed out of the other one's account.
I have been sitting here all through the show just dying because I got a package right before the show from Switzerland. And I think
chocolate?
I wish it were. No, this might be better than chocolate. It's something obsolete, guaranteed. Oscar Vermeulen is a crazy man who has in the past made replicas of PDP-8s. Steve Gibson has those blinking lights behind him. He's created a new version of the PDP-8, and he very kindly sent me one. Of course, I ordered it, but he said, you don't have to pay for it, Leo. He went out and he screened everything, and I haven't looked at this yet. I'm sure Steve will be showing his on the show, so I thought I'd do it now.
How much are these?
Not much, a couple $100.
Steve is probably running his web server off this now.
It uses a Raspberry Pi, so you need a Raspberry Pi to do it. I probably don't want to lose these parts here, but so let's not mess this up, Leo. But this is going to be a PDP-8 with the switches, with everything. It's a kit, but he said it's not going to be no soldering required, because I'm not the soldering type. And what he did is he duplicated with great attention to detail, duplicated the front panel. This is a PDP-11.
That's amazing.
Yeah, PDP-11, even down to the switches which he had manufactured. And if you run the emulator software on your Raspberry Pi, you'll actually be able to do stuff with these switches.
You can see where the Star Trek interface came from, can't you?
Oh yeah, look at that. It is Star Trek, isn't it? Isn't that beautiful? I can't wait to play.
Gorgeous.
Can't wait to play.
Does it work with your Surface, like the Surface Dial? Because that would be the best.
Look at this though. This is that would be nice. Maybe I could jerry rig the Surface Dial. I'm gonna at great risk. I'm gonna remove the tape here because I saw a picture of the motherboard. He had custom silk screening done. Oh, there's already a Pi in it. I don't even have to put my Pi in there. There's already a Pi in it, so it's ready to go. Thank you, Oscar.
That's amazing.
You rock. That's awesome.
Why, yes, I would like to leave my email address to be informed of kit availability.
Yes. Are you already there? Yeah. Go to.
I'm even giving you my real email address, not the fake one that I give for spammers.
I don't think he's charging what they.
Not the fake one we have,
even
Andy.
Close to what they cost to make, because he's got this all custom done. But he's just a labor of love for him. The PDP-8s are no longer available, but if you want to get one, you have to sign up. And he will send you the kit. This looks like the 8. The new one is the 11, and it's a little more expensive. The 8 was $155, but really, just really super cool. So Highly recommended. A visit to you have to Google Obsolescence Guaranteed and PDP, and you'll find the site. And soon I shall have my own blinking lights behind me in the studio. We'll see if it fools anybody.
I've already checked my inbox twice for an email saying that I was buying.
Don't expect rapid response because he just kind of does this all on his own. He's very, he's really I think an enthusiast more than somebody's trying to make money on.
Okay, well, I did get a PyDP 11 confirmation.
Oh, good.
So good. So the email address works. They have it.
Yes, the PyDP.
The waiting game.
And I guess mine's working, so maybe we'll plug it in and see what happens on Security Now later today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have concluded this episode. Is that the size of it? Is that how little they were? I always imagine them bigger in my head.
Like a room, right?
Yeah.
No, I think they were bigger. I'm trying to remember. Actually, my first computer was a PDP 11 in my high school that was not being used.
Yes.
And I think it was bigger than that.
I think it was I feel like it was bigger, but maybe not.
That was back before there were barcodes on canned goods. So
yeah, isn't that wild? I just love this. He says his son decided that the caps were better without being shiny, but he's included the shiny caps if I decided to replace them. So that's great. I have this special customized. You can't buy this customized version.
I'm not. This is one time where I'm using the painting the side of the fence that no one sees without being ironic or sarcastic.
Oh no! I mean, if you look at the circuit board, there it is. If you look at the circuit board, you'll see that he's actually got a custom.
I like the cut of this young man's jib. I will follow his career with considerable interest.
There's a future in PDPs. That's all I'm saying. Ladies and gentlemen, look at that. That's the circuit. That's inside. Painting the inside of the fence. That's crazy. We have come to the conclusion of this fabulous episode. I can't believe it, but it's done. I thank you so much for stopping by and making us a part of your day today. We do MacBreak Weekly every Tuesday, right after iOS Today. Usually that's around 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That would be 1900 UTC. If you want to stop by and say hi, we'd love it. You can watch or listen live at twit.tv/live. If you do that, stop by the chat room at irc.twit.tv. And you can also get on-demand versions from our website, twit.tv/mbw. Rene Ritchie is the host of the Vector podcast, but he's also a prolific writer at imore.com, where he's editor-in-chief. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, Rene.
Thank you so much, Leo.
You'll hear Andy Ihnatko every week on WGBH Boston, the public radio I grew up to. It's the best public radio station. I love WGBH, and it's a thrill to me that you're on it every week. Thank you.
It's a thrill to me, too. Thank you.
Yeah. And, of course, Alex Lindsay, without whom this show would not even exist.
He's just a thrill.
He's the guy who started it all way back when. Thank you, Alex.
My pleasure.
Follow him on Twitter at AlexLindsay. Now I am sorry to say, alas, it's time to go back to work because MacBreak is Boca.